Hi. I'm going to just start this panel, this conversation with our Reparations Task Force by asking you to introduce yourself. And my question when you introduce yourself is why are you on the task force? You know, why are you on it? Why did you say yes to it? So.
Okay. Should I start?
Yes, you should.
Okay. Okay. Hello? Oh, great. Thank you. So hi, I'm Majora Carter, and I was really intrigued at the fact that Middle Church even had a reparations task force, you know, in part because I'm a developer and real estate developer, and I've literally been working in my own practice as a way to kind of undo much of the historic inequities and the degrading ways that our communities have been developed as a result of white supremacy. And I was honestly smitten by the fact that Middle wanted to tackle head-on what they were doing and come up with some proactive solutions around it.
Hi, I'm Kristin, Bebelaar. I came to Middle originally to join the gospel choir, which were wonderful today, as always. And, you know, so came for the music, stuck around for the spirituality and the message of liberation that Jacqui shared with us today. I actually heard you, Jacqui, preaching about reparations long before there was an official reparations task force. And I remember particularly you're talking about to get to your office in the old building, you had to walk by all the portraits of your predecessor senior ministers. These old white men, they were all white men, and some of whom had enslaved people. And I know there was one, Reverend Laidley, who there was even a little plaque by his portrait that talked about how many people he enslaved. And it didn't talk about it like he was this holy man of God who did this one bad thing. It talked about it like, this was how prosperous he was. And it was sort of shocking to me that those things were still on the wall and that you had to walk by them. And I knew a little bit about Middle's history, but not very much. And, you know, I myself have Dutch background. My grandfather immigrated here from Holland. And I just felt really called that day. And I usually come late and leave early because I'm an introvert. If I talk a lot, it's only because I'm nervous. That's what I do when I'm nervous. But, you know, that day I made sure to get in line to talk to you and say, if you're going to do a reparations thing here, I want to be part of it, and I want to learn more, and I want to share what I learn with other people. So that's why I'm here.
I guess you've all heard my story earlier. I really do think it was James Baldwin that really, really spoke to me in such a way that I just didn't think about being white before. I mean, and that's, I think, what happens. You don't know your privilege. Because I was fighting, you know, being a woman my whole life. You know, that was my discrimination. That was my personal situation. But then when I read Baldwin, and he really told me who I was, and that I really had to pay attention to that, because my moving in the world as a white person was very profound and not in a good way. So that's how I came to think about my own situation and how can I change what's happening in our country and in the world. So I'm so thankful to Jacqui and Middle and just wanting to, you know, move this reparations conversation ahead, because it's not easy. Our government has been sitting on it for over 30 years trying to make reparations. So now I feel like, hey, let's look at it from an individual point of view. Let's look at it any way we can. We have to make this change.
Thank you. I wanted to let Kristin and Kim and Majora go first because I had been the chair of Intersections International, which was our social justice ministry. It was non-congregational, and I had been involved with the Lenape Indians Center and working with them, and we had produced several events that talked about not really selling or purchasing Manhattan. And these folks did the research for 2 years before I got involved with it. I was just working an 80-hour job then. So, but they invited me to share about the Lenape Center and the work that we had done. And then I began to dig into it because I became really interested in the history of the collegiate church and laying aside the history that we know about Native Americans, but also about the Black African Americans, and so that we have the full story. And since we're coming up close to our 400th anniversary, it just felt right to me to get more involved and to know so that we can tell the story and help in coming up with reparations that make sense today. It's not about just giving money to somebody, but there are other ways that we can do reparations.
Thank you, Danita. Thank you all so much. I'm going to stand here while I ask this second question and try to give you some space to answer it really kind of from your soul. I don't know what you thought I was going to say today in this sermon, but I'm wondering about, I think I want to ask you, what's the spirituality? I've been reading your work, getting ready for this sermon and getting ready for Juneteenth. I love our definition of reparations. We don't need to do that right now, but I'm kind of thinking about your theology. I'm saying the people of God are all storytellers, right? And one of the stories we're telling is this God story. So I wonder if you'll take a moment and think about, like, put your theology in conversations with this concept of reparations. Do you know what I'm asking? Okay. All right, I'm going to put the mic back in your hand and see who.
No,
I'm a little unclear.
Well, let me model. Let me model. You've done this, and I'm asking you to extrovert something that's inside. Repairers of the breach shows up in your talk today. That's a Isaiah passage, right? We're called to be repairers of the breach and restorers of the streets to live in. Thinking about reparations and liberation and justice and like where that sits inside your spiritual place. Because I'm wanting it to sit inside our spiritual place. Someone's going to see this later. Why? Make a case for reparations. Ta-Nehisi Coates, he makes one. Edgar Villanueva makes one. We make one. What is your personal spiritual feeling about it? Do you know? Is that clearer? And there's no wrong answer, and it doesn't have to be a long answer, but I want the middle to understand why you're feeling called to it. Is that better? Sorry.
So I think I see things in little pieces. Breaks my heart when Black kids in the first grade, second grade, third grade can't read. I can do something about that, so that touches me. I can figure out in my own way how to put 2 hours aside to go tutor, even if online, a child. And I think for me, it's trying to excite you about where you work, where you live, where you operate, how can you carve out an hour or two to give something back? That's why I said it's not about dollars. It's about how can you bridge the gaps of how our society has really oppressed a group of people, groups of people. And if you're a lawyer, can you help us know how to present a case, how to stand up for ourselves, how to make a position? Use whatever it is you do, whatever your skills are. That's where it touches me.
I think it's with me every day. Every time I have an interaction with, a bus driver or someone who's selling me some food at my local store, I just think about all of us and who we are and how we contribute. And I'm so thankful to be in New York City, to have this diversity. Not every community has this incredible diversity. And to really take advantage of who we are and lift up everyone, that's it for me.
For me, it was really starting to understand kingdom, because I don't think I really did until here, and a few other instances before that, when I realized that really what Jesus wants for us, is to model that neighborly behavior. Like, what does love really mean? And it is laying down your life for your friend. It is, making it, whether or not they decide to go to church or not, it is showing how much you love your neighbor. And I realized that because of who some of us were born, families we were born into, we were considered less than, and that we had nothing to offer. And I was like, that's not what, that beautiful verse in Zephaniah about God rejoices over you in singing. God doesn't make crap. But we were treated that way, and by law. And the early parts of my career started in environmental justice. And it became really clear. The reason why places are environmentally unjust was because of the kind of systemic racism that happened and was perpetuated on us. And so I think ultimately, my theology, if I were to call it that, is that I truly do believe that everyone has a beautiful, beautiful, divine piece to offer to the world. And we need to be able to have the freedom to do it. And reparations are simply a part of making sure that everybody has the capacity to do it. And I don't know what it means all the time, but it just feels that we've got to create that for us all.
Well, I spoke a little bit about part of my spiritual motivation, which of course came from you. I was not raised with Christianity. I was raised by hippies. And there was a lot of political activism and a lot going on. I think you and I are about the same age, so the world was in a hot mess times then too, as it is today, as you say. And I was made very aware of that at a very young age. And then inside my own home, there were injustices happening that nobody talked about. And so I'm an only child, so, I didn't have anybody to talk to about that. But, I saw what was happening. And I think at a very young age, I had this very strong sense of what's right and what's wrong. And how important it is to try to work for what's right and call out what's wrong. Like many people at Middle, I had a not great experience with a kind of evangelical kind of Christianity when I went to church with a little friend for a while when I was a child. I was terrified of God for like all of my childhood and most of my adolescence. And I also got little bits of spirituality from my Jewish grandmother and my great aunties. In the Jewish tradition, even though they were not religious, but they were very culturally Jewish, and they, doing good things, being a good person is really important, and it's not about getting a big reward in an afterlife. It's about being a good human now and fighting for freedom. Freedom is very important to Jews. And for what's right. And so I got little bits and pieces, and I didn't really hear it in Christian church until I came to Middle. And that, of course, really resonated for me, and it felt like a place where, with all of my, uncertain relationship to whatever we're going to call you know, whoever's up there. Sometimes I'm not even sure if there's anyone up there. But I know that there's us, and I know that this beloved community that you talk about is possible. And, you know, I just find, I love that there's so many elements of the Black church in this church, because that kind of outrageous hopefulness is so beautiful, and it really gives me strength to go on. And, you know, and Reparations, I think, is all about that. It's about you just keep trying to make the right thing happen, no matter how hard it is.
Look at y'all theologians up in here talking. Maybe one last question, just to, again, we're recruiting, right? And we're recruiting. And I think this is sort of like, you know, when Howard Gardner says leaders tell compelling stories that change the story. And then another writer says a vision is a picture of a preferred reality. So I'm going to ask you to fill in a blank, okay, as we wrap. Is that all right? And the blank I'd like you to fill in is, if I am in charge of the world, what I see is blank. With reparations in mind, with healing in mind, if I'm in charge of the world, what I see is blank. And then I want everyone to be thinking about that yourself too, because what we see, we manifest, right? Okay, so whoever's ready to go, whenever you're ready to go. I'm just putting that in your hand. I'm not making you go first. Okay.
I'll go. If I were in charge of the world, what I see is a space where we can tell the truth, even when it's painful, and we can make space for everybody to feel how they feel about that truth. And then we can all work together, whatever our feelings are, to make right what is not right now.
Well, that and, absolutely, because that I think is what's going to get to what I was thinking. You know, if I was in charge of the world, I would have it so that no matter where you were born or raised, you would truly feel as though that space was there to fulfill all of your spiritual, financial, what's another one? All those things. All of the things that people need in order to feel like they can afford to be gracious and generous and kind. Because we know that it is the socially isolated and excluded people. They're the ones who don't feel like where they are, no matter if they can be wealthy, they could even be in very poor communities, but feel as though they don't have to hurt other people in order to feel powerful. And make sure that people feeling like they don't have to move out of their neighborhoods to live in better ones, because everything is there for them.
So if I were in charge of the world, I would see a world where everyone was curious about everyone. Who you are, how you got to be, how you think and feel right now, what has happened in your life, how are you planning to and working to change it, and that we would be curious about it and want to know. And if we want to know each other, we just have to be together. It's really simple. You know, I give to you what I want to get.
If I was in charge of the world, I would tell everybody to join the fierce love revolution of Middle Church, because there's nothing like it. It changed me, it's changing the world, and I just love the idea of fierce love being just this global phenomena that people feel so comfortable to join. and be with people that are not like them. You know? Thank you, Jacqui.
Thank y'all for sticking around. Appreciate it. Does anybody have, like, are there maybe 1, 2 questions that you want to ask? Mac? Wait. Yeah, okay. Yes, coming right next. How do we join the task force?
You know, thank you for asking that, because somebody mentioned to me recently that when they tried to join the task force, they were told by someone that it was closed and you couldn't join, and that is not true. You can absolutely join. I believe it's Amanda's email that is on the website, but I will give you mine. I can give it to you now if you want to just email me. It's K, B as in boy, E, B as in boy, E, L-A-A-R, yes, you read that right, 2 A's in a row, B-E-B-E-L-A-A-R, @gmail.com. We do ask that you try to make a commitment to at least a year, and that you try to make more of the monthly meetings than you miss, because we do work on some intense stuff together, and we need to be able to know each other and trust each other, and it helps if you're there at most of the meetings. And yeah, that's how you join.
Love that. That was a great question. Is there one more we can do? Use the mic, though. Because the people can't hear you. Online. There we go.
Hi, I'm Daryl. I just wanted to know, what have you charged yourself with? What are your objectives? What is the next thing that you're trying to do, you want to accomplish? That hasn't been said, so I would like to know. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to just take this one since everybody's looking at me. As Jacqui said, we just completed our working definition of reparations. We are currently working on a web page that will be part of Middle's website that will tell some of this history. We'll have the definition. It will talk about upcoming things that we're doing. And one of the upcoming events that we're working on with Jacqui is an action across the street in Stuyvesant Park. That's going to be Sunday, June 23rd, right after service. June 23rd. And we will be talking back to Director Stuyvesant and telling the truth and thinking about what we want our public spaces, our parks to honor.
And that's going to happen on the 23rd of June, right after worship. We have an action plan to go over there. We're inviting you to come, anybody who hears this, but wanting to have Jewish and Christian and Buddhist and Quakers, all of our neighbors to come. And we're like clapping back. Wasn't his name Lord General? What was the title? Lord General Peter Stuyvesant?
It was in Dutch, so I don't know how you translate it, but...
I know that Lynn Pentecost has a very quick announcement to make about an opportunity to get involved with some reparations work.
Thank you, Jacqui. So I'm Lynn Pentecost, and it's Pentecost Sunday, so I guess I'm in the right place. If I could change the world, I'd replicate Jacqui. We need more.
That's very sweet.
And I'd also ban corporate greed and billionaires, but that's, I'm actually here on behalf of a friend who teaches photography on the Flathead Reservation in Montana. It's the tribal home of the Salish and Kootenai tribes, and I've been there and worked with him for many years. He has a very exceptionally talented young student who's graduating high school this year, who is in Photoville, which is a festival in Brooklyn, in the first 2 weeks of June. And she is coming with her family. There are 4 of them. She has 3 siblings and her mom. They have enough money for their airfare. They purchased their tickets because in 2022, she was in a show in LA at the Getty, and the week before the show, one of her family members went missing and was found murdered, and so they canceled it. So they're using their money to come to New York June 10th to 14th, but they don't have anything left for housing, and I'm just here to ask if anybody has any ideas, any rooms. I'm sure we could cobble something together, smaller amount, but not not the cost of hotels. So Katie Medicine Bowl wrote a beautiful letter, which I'd like to share with everybody through the task force and see if we can't come up with some housing, okay? Thank you. 4 nights.
10 to 14.
And we can split up the family because her brother's 19, he's in the tribal college. Katie's 18, and they've got the mom and their 14-year-old sister. So, I mean, we can do split ups 2 and 2. It wouldn't be hard. So if anybody has ideas.
Let's try to do it. Let's make some reparations. We've done some really practical reparations work that I'm so proud of, not only the incredible research, but when COVID came, this energy that we did about paying people's rent is a reparations project. We also gave some grants to Black and brown organizations in that time to help them do their work. So I'm really proud of that. And I think I'm reparations. I think the hiring of an African-American, loud, bold preacher in this white institution was an act of reparation. So I'm proud of that. I'm so proud of this work that you all are doing. I'm so very thrilled that you heard me speak an idea and that you do it. And what I want to say to all the people at Middle Church is speaking an idea is how things happen. So we are going to have a congregational meeting in June. We're going to be asking you to do some focus work with us. We're going to be sharing with you what our vision mission plan is and asking you to find your vocation inside this vision. What is it that God is calling you to do, and how can we help do that together? And with that in mind, I'm heading out to the Young Adult Leadership Lab, which started as an idea from John Janka, who's a member of the church. Can we say a prayer for repair? Would everybody join us in a prayer for repair? I'm going to look at our friends online and just say, with my eyes open, I dream a world where reparations task force no longer have to exist because we've healed what's broken, because we've made restitution. We've learned from neighbors like Germany who own their stuff and fix it. And some of that does include money. Yes, it does. But it also includes changing our ethics, changing our worldview, and learning each other. So may God bless all of us who are in this world healing business, where you are raising kids, teaching classes, writing poetry, going to work every day. Be about healing. Amen. Thank you all. That was hot. Woo! Thank you.